everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Val. I'm the homeschooling mom of 3 young kiddos, and I am bringing you a video today about 5 tips for a successful homeschool day with toddlers. Okay, so today's video is actually part of a collaboration with Jessica from the Waldock Way and Abby from Rooted in Rest, and there's going to be a whole playlist of lots of very inspiring mamas, homeschool mamas, that are sharing their tips with you for how to have successful homeschool days. I have found so much inspiration and so much good advice from all of these mamas. I know that you will too. So I will have both Jessica and Abby's channels linked down below in the description, as well as the playlist, so you can check out everybody else's advice, because I know you're going to find so much goodness there. I know you will. So check that out below. Okay, so let's get started. I am homeschooling a 3.5-year-old. She is doing the pre-K from The Good and the Beautiful, as well as a 2.5-year-old who is just tagging along with us, and I'm doing some kind of tot schooling and some just really simple activities with him to work on colors and letter recognition and numbers and counting and all of that fun stuff. And then we also have a 1.5-year-old, #Irish triplets, who is just around and always with me. So we have a lot going on every day, and it's hard to find time and to manage doing school and learning activities with all 3 of them tagging along and wanting to be a part and always needing things. So my 5 homeschool tips are going to be, they're going to be 5 tips that are going to be useful for anyone with any aged children, but for me and for my experience, they are what I need to do to have successful homeschool days when I have 3 toddlers running around and needing things, and how I prepare so that we are successful for the week and for the days. Okay, so number 1, my first tip, and that's how I start every week, every homeschool week, is to prepare for the week. Now, I just did a video on how I prepare for our homeschool week, so I'll leave that linked below and you can check that out. But I just take like 15-20 minutes on Sunday to make sure that we are completely prepared from start to finish for the entire week. So I know what we need to get through. I know what we're going to be doing. I know what supplies we need. And I have it all laid out and where it's easy for me to grab, so that I'm not trying to grab at straws every day when we're ready to start school. And that is the number 1 tip. You just have to be prepared. You have to be prepared and you have to be well organized. And both of those things are just in my nature, so that it's easy for me, and it is just how I function. We wouldn't get anything done in life or in homeschool if I wasn't that way. So tip number 2 kind of goes along with tip number 1, and that is to always be 1 step ahead of your kids. Now, this does not just apply to homeschool for me, because we have 3 very small kids. This just is like a life. This is just a life tip, but I have to always be 1 step ahead. So I need to know what we're doing next, so where my kids are going to be, what they can get into while they're there, and remove all of that temptation before we even get started. So as far as homeschool goes, I need to know, so we're going to start our homeschool day. We're doing these activities. They're going to be, we do our homeschooling in our dining room. So they're going to be in our kitchen and in our dining room, able to get to all the things. And so I need to make sure this is put away, this is up where they can't reach it, and these things are out for them to use right away. So before I even call them to the table or get them sat down for our activity, I get out every piece of equipment, or like all the crayons, all the glue, the scissors, the writing utensils, the papers, whatever it is we're going to need. I get it all out, get it all set out, and then I look around the rest of the room to see if there's anything that they're going to be able to get to or get into that I don't want them to get into, and I get that put away out of sight so that my sanity is saved and we are set for success to get right to our project. So always be one step ahead. All right, so tip number 3 is also another kind of like life tip, not just homeschooling tip, but if there is one piece of advice that I would ever give to new parents, it is to have realistic expectations. Every bit of like disappointment and upset that I had in like the first year of my first child's life was because of my own expectations and how I would have it in my head of how it was going to go and how it was going to look. And then when it didn't end up that way, I would get super disappointed and super let down and in a funk and all of those things. So I still struggle with that, but not nearly as bad as I did in the beginning of being a new mom. But that same thing applies to homeschool, and that's where I have had to relearn that whole concept, because last year when we first started homeschooling, I would have these expectations of what she was going to learn and how quickly she was going to learn it and how the activities were going to go, and it was just going to be this fun thing, and she was always going to be into it, and she was going to learn so much and all of these things. Well, that's not always how it goes, and that's okay. But for someone like me, that was hard to accept. So you have to go into your homeschool days and your homeschool week and your homeschool year and life, basically, with realistic expectations, and so that you're not getting disappointed with yourself, and especially not getting disappointed with your kids. Everybody, which, I mean, is this not why we homeschool? Everybody learns at a different pace and in a different way. And so if you have an expectation that something is going to go a certain way and then it doesn't, and you get disappointed, and then you show your kid your disappointment, or they see that you're upset, or that's going to let them down, and then they're going to feel bad. And we don't want that, obviously, for our kids. And so if you set your expectations realistically, I don't want to say low. I mean, I feel like most of the time these days, I don't have expectations. And that, not in a bad way, but like, I don't want to set them too high so that everybody's disappointed and upset for the rest of the day. And I don't want to set them low because I know that my kids are able to accomplish these things and learn these things. They just may need some guidance or some different ways of learning or whatever. But so I just try to not have expectations. Easier said than done, especially for me. I'm just that kind of person. I don't know. But set realistic expectations. Okay, so tip 4, when in doubt, go outside. I am not an outdoors kind of person. I don't really like to be outside, especially in any kinds of extreme weather. If it's too hot, nope. If it's too cold, forget it. I'm not even going to attempt it. But I know that for the sake of my kids and all of our sanity, we need to get outside. And if we're struggling with a project or whatever it is we're learning, or if everybody's a little too crazy, or there's a lot of sibling rivalry or grumpy attitudes, getting outside always solves the problem. I started following an account on Instagram. Her name is Ginny, and her account is 1000 Hours Outside. And she talks all about the scientifically proven benefits of being outside, and especially being outside for kids. And I've learned so much from her. We've started her challenge, and it really pushes me to make sure that we're getting outside and we're spending a lot of time outside, which we do anyway. Even though I'm not an outside fan, like I said, it's so beneficial for my kids in so many ways. And when they have run around and gotten out a bunch of their energy and their wiggles, they're just more cooperative, more calm, more pleasant to be around, and things just work better. So when in doubt, get outside. Okay, and last tip number 5, let it go. So what I mean by let it go is, if there is something that you're doing, an activity or a worksheet or a project or whatever it is, anything that's pertaining to your school day, if there is something that is just not going well, your kid is not into, they aren't enjoying it, everybody's getting frustrated, let it go. So there are a couple things, like I said, we're doing the pre-K, the Good and the Beautiful curriculum. And there are a couple activities that come up throughout the week that my daughter just doesn't like. I can't keep her focused. She just doesn't like them. And so then it's a struggle for her and a struggle for me. And it's not worth it. There's no reason to try to push through it and get that done if nobody is benefiting from it. So I'm actually going to do a whole video, like an update on our homeschool year and how it's going, and I'm going to talk a lot about that in there. So make sure you're subscribed and your bell notifications on so you'll know when that video pops up. But I learned early on which activities that she just wasn't into and were not going to work for us. And so I either don't do them at all, or we'll just do a few pieces of it and then we'll stop and we'll let it go. And if it gets too frustrating for her and we're just butting heads, then we just stop. I just stop and I don't even try, because that's not worth it. Isn't the point of homeschooling your kids, at least in my case, was to have the connection and make the memories with your kids? And so if the memories you're making are going to be negative memories about how you were pushing them to do these activities that they hated, what's the point? Or like, for me, one of the biggest reasons why I want to homeschool our kids is for that connection, so that we can grow closer as a family. They can grow closer to me, to my husband, to each other. Their strongest bonds are between the 5 of us. That pushing them to do something that they are not engaged in and liking isn't going to help that connection. So it's not worth it to me. In homeschool, you're not grading. You're not just doing activities to check off a list so that at the end of the year you've met all of the standards that you need to meet as the teacher. We don't have to do that as homeschooling. That's the point. That is the whole reason that we are here. So let it go. I think that everybody has a different way of doing things, obviously, and everybody's going to be different. Not every day is going to be successful, no matter how hard you try. But then you just start fresh the next day and you just get through it. And along the way, you make the good memories. You make the strong connections and the strong bonds. And that's really all that really, truly matters. So those were my 5 tips for a successful homeschool day, especially when you have toddlers around. I hope you found something helpful. Let me know in the comments down below what your top tip is for a successful homeschool day. And don't forget to check out Jessica from the Waldock Way, Abby from Rooted in Rest, and the whole playlist of all the other inspiring mamas that I will leave down below. Don't forget to subscribe, make sure your bell notification is on, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.